Hello my dear friends, in this video I'll show you 5 genius ways to create custom animations in PowerPoint. And let's start with the first custom animation that I call the cybertext animation. And first of all, let me show you how this animation looks like, and as you can see, all of the letters are flickering in one by one, and this way we're getting this beautiful futuristic cybertext animation. And now let's duplicate the current slide and let me show you how you can create the cybertext animation as well. And now in the animation pane, let's delete all of the animations so that we can start from scratch. Now let's select the cybertext animation slide title. Let's go to more entrance animations and let's look for the swivel animation. Here it is. Let's click on it and let's click OK to add the swivel animation to the slide title. And currently, as you can see, the whole text box is animated all at once. So let me show you how we can change that. Let's jump into the swivel animation options and let's make sure that the text is animated by a letter. We can keep 10% delay between the letters. And for the animation duration, let's use something short, for example 0.2 seconds. And skadoosh, now we get this beautiful cybertext animation. And next, let's make sure that we select the slide title and let's use the animation painter to paste the same animation to this paragraph. That's beautiful. And now let's jump into the swivel animation options of the paragraph and let's make sure that the text is animated by word. This way we'll get a bit of different look for the paragraph. That's beautiful. So the slide title is animated by letter and the paragraph is animated by word. So choose whichever variation looks best for you. And by the way, we can make sure that the first animation happens with previous and the second animation happens after previous, after the first animation, and let's check it out on the full screen. That's looking beautiful, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And by the way, you can find all of the custom animations that you will learn about in this video in my brand new PowerPoint animation pack. More info at the end of the video. Okay, my dear friends, and let's continue with the second custom animation, the scrolling grid. And with this animation, you can create a beautiful animated background for your slides. So let's duplicate the current slide and let me show you how you can create the scrolling grid as well. Let's zoom out a bit so that we can see the whole grid. Let's delete it for now so that we can create it from scratch. And let's delete this text box as well so that we have no distractions. Okay, so first of all, we have to create that grid. And to create that grid, we'll be using a bunch of rectangles. So let's go to Insert Shapes, let's find that rectangle tool, and now let's just insert a rectangle that has the same height as the slide. And now let's align this guy to the left side of the slide. Okay, that's beautiful. And now let's duplicate this rectangle 14 more times so that we have 15 columns or 15 of these full height rectangles, okay? So we can just keep on hitting Ctrl D until we have 15 columns in total. Let me count so that we have those 15 columns. Okay, that's looking good. So now we can just hit Ctrl A to select all of these guys and let's hit Ctrl G to group them into one beautiful group. And now we can just stretch them so that they nicely cover the whole slide. And next, let me double click inside of this group and let's copy one of those columns. Let's paste it on top. And now let's transform this column into a row. Okay, let's make sure that this row covers the whole width of the slide. And let's align it to the top of the slide. That's beautiful. And now let me duplicate this row 7 more times so that we have 8 rows in total. So I'm going with 15 columns and 8 rows. And of course, you can go with any number that you wish. And now let's select all of these rows. Let's group them into a single group. And once again, let's stretch them down so that they cover the whole slide. So now on one group, we should see all of the rows, and on the other group, we should have all of the columns. And now let me place those rows back into the position, and now let's select both of these groups and let's group them into one huge single group. So now both the columns and rows are grouped into a single group. That's nice. And now let's right click on this group and let's jump into the format shape and let's do a couple of adjustments. And first of all, let's choose no fill so that we can see through those columns and rows. And for the line, let's add some transparency and change the thickness of the line. And for the line transparency, I'm going with 80%. And for the line width, I'm going with 0.5 point. And this is how our grid looks like. That's looking beautiful. And next, my friends, before we can start animating this grid, let's make sure that we duplicate it. And let's move this exact copy to the right side of the slide. And now let's make sure that we select both sides of this grid and let's group everything into one huge grid. And now this grid has the length of 2 slides. And by the way, as you can see, this vertical line is a bit thicker than the rest of the vertical lines because this is the place where both of these grids are meeting, but that's okay. So let's make sure that this grid looks like this. And now let's select it and let's add a motion path animation to this guy. And let's choose the motion path line animation. Here it is. Now it's going downwards, so let's choose direction left. We want to go to the left side in this case, And now let's grab this red bubble and let's move it exactly to the left edge of the slide. And now, my friends, let's jump into the animation pane. Let's give it a preview. And as you can see, the grid is scrolling to the left side. That's nice, but let's do a couple of adjustments. Now, in the animation options, let's remove the smooth start and smooth end because we want to have a constant speed of scroll. And for the animation duration, let's use something longer, for example, 17 seconds. And let's make sure that the animation is repeated until the end of slide. And this way, this background should be looping infinitely. So let's check it out. Let's click once to start the animation, and now the background is starting to scroll. And by the way, here's that vertical thicker line where both of the grid sides are meeting. So once that thicker line is going to touch the left edge of the slide, it should instantly appear on the right side and the animation should keep on repeating. And here it is coming from the right side once again. That's super duper awesome. And next, my friends, let's add one more animation to this grid so that it nicely fades in. So let's make sure that the grid is selected and let's add a fade-in animation. Let's make sure that this fade-in animation is at the top. Let's set the duration to 1 second and let's make sure that both of the animations are happening with previews at the same time. So once again, let's check it out. And now the grid nicely fades in and starts to scroll at the same time. And this way our grid is looking super duper awesome. And next, my friends, let me show you how you can create floating images in PowerPoint just like this guy. Floating images, let me show you how you can do that as well. And as always, let's duplicate the current slide, and on the duplicate slide, let's jump into the animation pane. Let's delete all of the animations so that we can do everything step by step. Let's select the image, and first of all, let's add a fade-in animation to the image. Let's make sure it starts with previous. Animation duration, ½ second, and it looks like this. And now let's add a motion path animation, a motion path circle animation to this image. So let's go to add animation, let's scroll down and let's choose this motion path shape animation. That's beautiful. Let's make sure it starts with previous animation duration 6 seconds. And now in the motion path animation options, let's choose the circle shape. You have a bunch of different shapes, but let's go with the circle. And now let me zoom in into this circle motion path. And now it is going downwards, and let's say we'd like it to go upwards. So we can select this motion path. Let's grab this bottom bubble and let's move it upwards. That's nice. And at the same time, let's resize this circle a bit. We can hold down the control key and grab one of those bubbles on the sides to resize it proportionally. That's nice. And currently this motion path is going counterclockwise. Let's set it to clockwise, and we can make that happen by going into the effect options and choosing reverse path direction. Now it should be going clockwise, okay? And now let's jump into the animation pane. Let's make sure that everything is set correctly. So first of all, let's remove the smooth start and smooth end. Okay. And in the timing tab, let's make sure that the repetition is set until the end of slide. And once again, let's make sure that the duration of the animation is set to 6 seconds. Okay. And now let's check it out on the full screen. Let's see what we have created so far. So first of all, the image should fade in, and then it should be just going in circles. Just like that. The animation duration is 6 seconds, and that's looking beautiful. And now the last animation that we can add is a subtle spin animation. So let's make sure that the image is selected, and let's go to add animation and let's add a spin animation. Let's make sure it starts with previous. Animation duration is 3 seconds, and the motion path animation is 6 seconds, and the spin animation is going to be 3 seconds. But since we're going to be using auto reverse, that spin animation is going to be basically 6 seconds long. And for the rotation, let's use 5 degrees clockwise, and we can actually add the 1 second smooth start and smooth end, okay? Now in the timing tab, let's make sure that the repetition is set until the end of slide. So 5 degrees clockwise, smooth start, smooth end, auto reverse activated. And now as you can see in the animation pane, both the blue bars and the yellow bars have the same length, because for the spin animation, which is 3 seconds, we're using auto reverse, which makes it 6 seconds long. That's why it's the same length as the motion path circle animation. And now let's check it out. So first of all, the image fades in and then it follows the circle, and at the same time it is slightly rotating back and forth, and it's looping until the end of slide. That's super duper awesome. Okay, my dear friends, you're making a wonderful progress, and in place number 4 we have horizon parallax that looks like this. And with this custom animation, you can bring pretty much any photo to life and create a cool animated background for your slides. So let me show you how you can create it as well. So first of all, let me jump to this slide where I have already prepared a couple of shapes that we'll be using. And let me open up the selection pane so that we can easily see all of the shapes that we have on this slide. And we have basically 4 rectangles that I have named layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4. And the last rectangle, layer 4, is basically a full screen rectangle that covers the whole slide. And by the way, make sure that you set the slide background fill to some kind of picture, okay? In this case, I have this beautiful grainy gradient because later on we'll be using the same slide background fill for all of these rectangles, and this way we'll make all of that magic happen. And as you can see, these three rectangles at the bottom are slightly sticking out of the slide window, and the reason for that is that we're going to add some soft edges for these three rectangles. So let's add 30 points of soft edges, and now these three rectangles are nicely fitting inside of the slide. That's nice. And please make sure that the most bottom rectangle stays on top, then goes layer 2, after that layer number 3, and finally the full screen rectangle. And now let's make sure that the most bottom rectangle is selected, and let's add a motion path line animation to that guy. So the direction is downwards, that's good, but let's decrease the travel distance so we can grab that red bubble, and let's just drag it slightly upwards so that we have a travel distance that looks something like this. That's beautiful. Now let's open up the animation pane, okay? Let's make sure that this motion path animation starts with previous animation duration 5 seconds. Now let's jump into the motion path animation options, and in this case we can add a smooth start and smooth end of 1 second so that the animation looks a bit smoother. Let's activate the auto reverse so that this animation will be going up and down, and for the repetition let's make sure that it is repeating until the end of slide. Okay, we can give it a preview. It's quite hard to see with this soft edge how this animation looks like, but this first layer is slightly going up and down. That's good. Okay, and now the second animation that we need to add to this first layer is a grow shrink animation. Here it is. Let's select it. Once again, let's make sure it starts with previous animation duration 5 seconds. And now in the grow shrink animation options, let's choose the growth percentage. Let's go with 175. That's beautiful. Now for the smooth start, smooth end, let's use 1 second. Let's enable auto reverse. And in the timing tab, let's choose repetition until the end of slide. So right now this most bottom rectangle is going up and down, and at the same time it is growing up to 175% and going back to 100. So once again, it's pretty hard to see what's going on with those soft edges, but very soon we'll add the same slide background fill to all of these rectangles and we'll see some magic happen. And now we can select this most bottom rectangle and use the animation painter and paste the same two animations to the rest of the rectangles, okay? And now one thing that we'll have to adjust the growth percentages. So for the first layer, it was 175. For the second layer, let's go with 150, okay? For layer number 3, let's go with 125. And for the last layer, the full screen rectangle, let's go with 110. And as you can see, I'm gradually reducing the growth percentage, and this way we should get a beautiful horizon parallax effect. And now let's make sure that we select all of these rectangles. Let's right click on them, let's jump into the format shape options, and let's go to fill settings, and let's choose slide background fill. And now all of these rectangles are using the same picture as the slide background, okay? So now let's give it a preview, and as you can see, we're getting some parallax effect, but of course this background picture is not the best. So let me actually grab this landscape photo from my previous slide. We can use the format painter to paste the same background picture to our slide. And let's check it out once again. And skadoosh, we're getting a beautiful horizon parallax effect. That's super duper awesome. Let's check it out on the full screen and let's enjoy it one more time. And as you remember, all of the layers have different growth percentages and they have motion path animations as well. And thanks to all of these animations, we're getting this beautiful horizon parallax effect. That's super duper wonderful. Okay, my dear friends, and here comes custom animation technique number 5 that will help you create this beautiful button shine effect for any buttons or any shapes that you have on your slides. So let me show you how you can do that as well. And to save some time, let's start with this slide where I have already inserted a couple of shapes. So we have a rounded rectangle and a couple of beautiful circles, okay? And make sure that you set your slide background fill to some kind of picture because later on we'll be filling some of the shapes with the same slide background fill. And now let's just duplicate this bright rectangle. We can delete the text inside of the duplicate. And now let's jump into the format shape and let's change the fill color of this duplicate so that we can better differentiate between these two rectangles. And at the same time, let's make this dark rectangle a bit bigger and let's send it to back so that it sits behind the first rectangle. And then we can align it to the center and middle of the slide so that it perfectly sits behind the first rounded rectangle, just like that. And if you wish, you can grab one of those corner handles and adjust how wide that second rectangle is, okay? You can as well grab this yellow handle and adjust the roundness of the second rectangle. Alright, that's looking super duper wonderful. Okay, my friends, let's zoom out and let's insert a huge rectangle that would cover both of these rounded rectangles, okay? And let's make sure that we send this big guy to back so that we can see the rest of the rectangles. And let's make sure that this big guy is sitting in the center of the slide, just like that. Now let's select this huge rectangle. Let's hold down the Shift key, select that dark rectangle, and let's choose Subtract and Skadoosh. This way we have basically punched a hole inside of that huge rectangle. And this is what we want, okay? And now let's zoom out a bit and let's start working with those beautiful circles that we have here at the top. And as you can see in the selection pane, I have named these guys oval number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. You can have as many colors as you wish. In this case, we're working with 4 of those circles. And now let me move this white oval over here. Okay, we can bring it to front for now so that we can better see it. That's nice. And at the same time, let's jump into the format shape and let's add a bit of transparency. I'm using 50% transparency so that we can better see the rest of the shapes. And now let's position this guy somewhere at the corner right here. And now we can add a custom motion path animation to this semi-transparent circle. Let's choose a custom motion path animation. And first of all, let's click inside of this circle. Okay, next let's click over here. After that, let's click inside of this corner. Next, let's click over here, and finally, let's join the final point with the starting point, just like that. And skadoosh, this way we have created a custom motion path. That's beautiful. Let's open up the animation pane. We can definitely see the motion path animation. Animation duration 2 seconds. Now let's jump into the motion path animation options. Let's remove smooth start, smooth end, because we want to have that constant speed. And let's make sure that the repetition is set to until the end of slide. And let's set the animation to start with previous, which basically means that this animation will start playing automatically once we play the presentation. Okay, and right now I think we can remove the transparency so that this oval is fully white. Okay, and at the same time let's send it to back so that it is behind all of the shapes. And now let's check it out on the full screen. Let's see what we have created so far. And as you can see, that white circle is just circling around the button. That's looking beautiful. So next, my friends, let's add some soft edges to this circle. And for now, let's just bring it to front so that we can see it better. And once again, let's add soft edges of 30 points. Of course, you can use any amount that you wish. And now let's send it to back. And now let's check it out on the full screen once again. And skadoosh, this way we have successfully created the first highlight. That's nice. And now we can start working with the rest of the colors. So let me select these 3 circles. And once again, let's add 30 points of soft edges to these guys as well. Let's use 30, that's nice. And now since the first highlight is already animated, we can use the animation painter to paste the same beautiful animation to these circles as well. And next, let's make sure that we position all of these highlight circles precisely on top of each other. But before that, let me open up the selection pane and let's see what's going on. So let's bring oval number 1 to the top, just like that. And by the way, we can rename that rectangle with a hole to mask, okay, because it's going to be our mask. It will be on top, just like that. But for now, let's bring that mask to the bottom so that we can see all of those circles. And now let's just select oval 1. Let's select the rest of these guys. And now we can align them to the left and then to the top. And now they should be precisely sitting in the same spot. That's nice. And now we can bring the mask to the top. So this way, that mask will mask all of those circles, okay? And next, my friends, let's open up the animation pane. Let's give it a preview. And as you can see, all of these circles are being animated at the same time. So for that reason, let's add some animation delays. For the second circle, let's use 0.1. For the third one, let's use 0.2. And for the last one, let's use animation delay of 0.3 seconds. This way, those animations will be happening with a slight delay and will be having this beautiful trailing effect. That's super duper wonderful. And of course, let's select both of these blue shapes. Let's jump into the format shape options and let's set their fill to slide background fill. And skadoosh, right now they're using the same picture as the slide background. And by the way, we can remove the lines from the mask, okay? And now we should be pretty much ready. And here it is, my friends, a beautiful, colorful, looping, trailing button shine effect made in PowerPoint. That's super duper awesome. And as I mentioned at the start of this video, all of these 5 custom animations and actually many more animations can be found in my brand new PowerPoint animation pack. So let me show you all of the animations one by one so that you know what you can expect to find in this animation pack. And first of all, we have text animations. After that, we have text highlight animations. After that, we have animated backgrounds, shape animations, and finally, button animations. And of course, based on your feedback, this animation pack will be updated. And what's awesome about this animation pack is that it is like your personal PowerPoint animation library with all of your favorite and most used animations in one place. And since creating custom animations and perfecting all of those animation settings can take some time, it's really helpful when you have a collection of ready-made custom animations that you can quickly apply to your new presentations. And using all of these animations is super easy. You can just, for example, copy this animated text box and paste it into your presentation, or you can use the animation painter to quickly copy and paste animations between the slides. And this animation pack is available on my Patreon page, link is in the video description. It's available to all of my superhero level Patreon members, and please keep in mind that Patreon works as a subscription, but you can always cancel at any time. However, if you do choose to stay subscribed, then you'll always have access to the latest animation pack version with all of the updates. And by the way, once you join my Patreon superhero level, you'll get access not only to this animation pack, but to all of these superhero level templates that I have already posted to Patreon as well. So that's a massive value. And now, my friends, let's enjoy the rest of the animations that we can find in the PowerPoint animation pack.